So, from puppets unlike anything you've ever seen, to taking 3 months to film one 10-second shot, there is no denying the amount of love and attention that went into building the world of Pinocchio. Pinocchio is definitely one of a kind. This puppet's joints may appear wooden, but in reality his entire body is made out of metal, and it was designed on a computer before it was printed out in 3D. Did you know Pinocchio is actually the first puppet fully printed out of a 3D printer? Like, how cool is that?
Pinocchio himself is the first puppet fully printed out of a 3D printer.
When it came to his design, Guillermo del Toro took plenty of inspiration from the artwork of Chris Grimley, all while making it a priority that Pinocchio actually needed to have an unfinished look. Geppetto, in this version, carves Pinocchio while he's intoxicated, and so he starts with the ear and his hair, and he is really careful with that. Then he finishes him quickly. While that was quick, this one 10-second shot took roughly 3 months to film, but 2 months of that was actually spent on setup.
And it took about a month to shoot it.
In this frame, the monkey, Spazzatura, passes through the carnival on his way to meet Volpe for the first time, and according to Guillermo del Toro, we have to negotiate a clockwork operation to make that shot happen. Most of the puppets had been placed on small cranes, and all of the rigging needed to be in motion at once. And while this may have seemed ambitious,
all that was very much influenced by the way Guillermo shoots live-action films.
So if the Dogfish puppet had actually been built to movie size, it would have been larger than the freaking building. So instead, these geniuses worked with a highly detailed but scaled down version.
It turned out to be about 3.5 feet long.
While when it came to animating the water around the puppet,
we came up with a digital solution,
relying on CG and other effects to make it blend with the stop motion seamlessly. Guillermo del Toro revealed that the Dogfish's design was actually heavily influenced from a time gone by when
explorers would draw the marvels of the sea, exaggerated and more whimsical.
So Pinocchio actually relied on 2 different animation techniques for the puppet's expressions. For most of the characters, the British studio, McKinnon and Saunders, provided their one-of-a-kind system of gears, which was no bigger than a walnut, that can be fitted beneath a silicone head and turned to create the sort of nuanced emotions that we can see on screen. For the main puppet, however, the animators actually took a different approach.
Pinocchio is replacement because he's a wooden boy.
According to Georgina Haynes, the creative supervisor, a silicone head skin that sits over mechanics wouldn't look like wood anymore, and so they just simply swapped out the puppet's face depending on his expression. Now, Volpe is actually a combination of 3 different villains from the original story. As Guillermo del Toro explained, the 3 main villains in the original story are the cat, the fox, and the puppeteer, and we wanted to fuse them into one. And so, his design included elements from each of these characters. In particular, the fox can be seen in the way that his hair shoots up almost like ears. But, as Mark Gustafsson, the co-director, explained, he's kind of the devil in a way, and his hair resembles horns, too. So, the animators for Pinocchio were pretty much the same as actors. Guillermo del Toro encouraged them to think through the puppet and avoid pantomime.
To give us real acting.
The animators had to pay really close attention to which one among them seemed the most compatible with a specific character.
Oh, that person's really got Pinocchio down. That's our Pinocchio.
Even the voice cast acknowledged the amount of work that the animators put into the characters. Considering Finn Wolfhard said, "At least in the making of it, I played such a small part in it. The real actors and everyone in it, to me, are the people that really shaped all of the characters physically." So the Crickets dance number during the credits is one of the few choreographed scenes. For the most part, the dance sequences in the movie weren't fully planned out beforehand, because the production team knew that there would be specific beats from the script that they would have to hit. Okay, so like for example, during the song that Pinocchio sings when he first meets Geppetto, the animators knew they wanted him to smash a series of bottles with a hammer before jumping and swinging on a rope. And so, for anything else surrounding that
evolved a little bit more organic. organically as we went.
Honestly, you can tell a lot about a scene just from its lighting.
When Carlo goes into the church for the first time, we have this very warm light coming into the church.
This scene is meant to contrast the moment when Pinocchio's first introduced to the townspeople, and the light that we see streaming through the church windows is like much cooler to make for a grimmer mood. Frank Passingham, the cinematographer, has admitted that it was the natural light in the film that posed his greatest challenge, mostly because natural light is always in movement, and because of the amount of precision it required to capture in stop-motion animation. Sebastian J. Cricket couldn't be too small. If he was, you wouldn't be able to see all of those gorgeous facial details that were designed by the illustrator Guy Davis. As it was, Guy already had to make the cricket just a little simpler than the other characters due to his size, with his mustache representing mandibles while also being his main form of communicating his feelings. Rather than shrinking the cricket, the animation team decided to make Pinocchio even bigger.
This is our Pinocchio to interact with the cricket, which is this height.
But that being said, multiple puppets had to be made in varying sizes for pretty much every character.
Then we have these small crickets for other shots.
That poor Sebastian J. Cricket. He sure went through a lot in this movie, huh?
Oh, the pain. Life is such hideous pain.
Though, maybe not quite as much as his book counterpart. So in the book, Pinocchio crushes the cricket right away, and he only reappears later as a ghost. Well, the movie didn't quite go that far, of course, but the repeated gag where he gets crushed and survives, stunt crickets were made using claymation, one-off heads that could be frame-by-frame squashed. For the body, the animators used a hollow skin of silicone with aluminum wire and metal armature underneath. This actually allowed them to literally squash the body and then the wings, which were pre-bent in very intentional crushed shapes. Okay, so early into production, it was decided that they were going to keep the color schemes really rigid. Guillermo del Toro explained the blue is only for those elements that are magical or shaping Pinocchio. Red was only for war and destruction. Geppetto's village relies on a number of warm shades like golds and ambers, while Volpe's carnival is filled with vibrant oranges and greens. So if you pay close attention, you might even notice that the color scheme of the characters themselves often correspond with their environment. For instance, each of the magical characters have the same otherworldly blue, violet, purple skin because they're all related. One mistake in costuming affected the entire direction of the movie. Georgina Haynes recalled how a sample fabric had been sent to her from McKinnon and Saunders for Spazzatura's pants, and Haynes realized she'd stitched it together with a slightly uneven line in it. Haynes said that she found the fabric beautiful and described it as perfectly imperfect. This led the animators to realize that was what we wanted the lines to look like in our film. A picture of the sample fabric was then sent around to every department, with Haynes referring to it as a pivotal reference. So the world of Pinocchio needed to feel like one that really existed, right? Georgina Haynes did plenty of research into towns in northern Italy around the film's time period, so that she could build a setting that was sort of a huge mix of all sorts of different inspirations.
I know Iglesias just like this.
Guillermo del Toro revealed that plenty of thought was put into establishing a sense of history about the village as well, explaining that you can see structures ranging from medieval ruins to 18th century carvings. And then you have murals from the 1500s, 1400s, so it feels layered. So that filming process was anything but easy, huh? But which part of the world building do you think was the most effective? We'd love to hear your thoughts, so make sure to let us know down in the comments section.